Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Fred Cary. I'm excited. I have to say, I'm excited.
I'm excited.
So we're going to kick this off right. You've got so much experience, and I know I can't extract everything I want from you in this, short 30-minute segment, but I know it's going to be loaded with all sorts of good stuff. I want to start though by talking a little bit about the business that you've got right now is kind of your thing that is your point of focus, because I know you got all sorts of really, really amazing credentials. Let's talk about what you got going on right now.
Yeah, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really happy to be here with you. I started Idea Pros. That's the company, ideapros.com. About 4.5 years ago, I had an opportunity to either stop working or work the hardest I ever have in my life. And I stupidly chose the latter. And it's really, this could be my biggest business yet. It's really based around giving back to entrepreneurs, and there's an enormous need for it. We have something like 550,000 new entrepreneurs sprouting new businesses every single month in America alone, and that's almost double our birth rate. So twice as many entrepreneurs being born every month. We know who you are out there, than there are babies. And the reality is that most of them don't come out of Uber or Facebook or Microsoft or any of those companies where they can get venture backing, private equity backing, the teams that they need to really start something. And I saw this enormous void there, and I thought I would take all the experience I've had for the last 30 years, the successes, the mistakes, and condense them all down into a formula to help give people an unfair advantage so they don't end up failing in the first year like 60% of entrepreneurial businesses do.
So you just mentioned the statistic. Most people have heard it. I've heard actually as high as 90%. I don't know where they got that stat from. And maybe that was, they're saying 90% in 10 years, 5 years, whatever the case it may be. The fact of the matter is it's not an easy journey. And there are a lot of people that don't really have the right foundation to start with. And I'm talking about not even the capital, right? Or the skills, the right mindset. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what is, in your opinion, the reason that it is so hard for so many aspiring entrepreneurs to really get some momentum going in their businesses?
It's actually pretty easy. The biggest reason for failure of new entrepreneurial organizations, I'll give you the top two. You mentioned one. The biggest one, think about this, people. The biggest one is you've created something that there is no market for. That's the biggest reason for failure, is we've created something that nobody wants. And the second biggest, to your point, is you don't have the adequate capital to pull it off. And it's a hard work getting ready to launch your first product, your first company. And it takes a ton of research and analysis. You need to understand your company, your customer, your competitors, the market space, the market growth, the market pivots. You need to understand all that stuff before you do the very first thing about developing your new app, or going to get some engineering, or God forbid, get a patent for a product that you don't even know if anybody wants or whether or not it can even be manufactured. But we do all those things first because we're eager. And mom said it's a great idea. But mom doesn't matter. She's not going to buy it. You have to really do the research.
So right now we are speaking to a very large variety of business owners, and many of them are at different stages, right? Some of them are far more established. They're clear, right? They're clear. They know their product, their service it has a demand in the marketplace, and they're just on sort of that growth journey, right? It's about expansion and growth and scaling and just continuing to be a better version of themselves. But we do have a lot of people listening who are in their sort of infancy in their business. And there is no shortage of opinions on what they should be doing to grow their business, how they should market it, what skills they need to acquire. And for those individuals who are really maybe even a bit confused, you have so much experience under your belt. I'm curious what type of guidance or advice you give to a new business owner who is wanting to get pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, the first thing, if it's not too late and you're still thinking about what you want to do, try to find something that you're passionate about. Try to find something that really speaks to you, because if you can find a way to create a business around something you love doing, then you don't have to worry about this work-life balance stuff that people talk about all the time, because it all ends up becoming one beautiful painting. Because you wake up in the morning, you're happy because you're doing what you want to be doing, and people are giving you money for it. So if you can do that, that's really where you should start. In fact, I did this morning, somebody from the Philippines won a prize to speak to me for half an hour, and she's a poor person in the Philippines, and her husband's working 4 hours away, and she wanted to know how she could make money. And I sat for 15 minutes and talked to her about what she's really happy about and what she's passionate about, what she does well. And what she does well is growing orchids. So I said, all right, get all your orchids in the backyard and start bringing them to the front yard, and sit down with your 2-month-old baby and start making money selling these orchids. And we all have an opportunity to sell our own orchids, whatever it is that we're passionate about. So that's the very first thing I would tell anybody that's starting out. Try to connect your passion with your business.
I love that. Gave me goosebumps.
You love orchids.
I do. I do love
too.
orchids.
Yeah.
So when someone finds themselves in a situation where maybe they've started to fall out of love with their business, because it does happen, right? You get kind of caught up in the mundane and all of the things that you believe need to be done, and maybe they legitimately do need to be done. Maybe you're not the right one to be doing them.
Right.
But in any case, when you hear these stories of, how hard it is and the uphill climb, and you see all the memes online about how success is not the straight journey and it's all like twisty and turny and all of that stuff, I think it's really valuable to be able to sort of find your way back to that passion.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm curious what you've got to say on that.
Your business can be like a relationship. It requires constant work. You don't just start it. It's a great idea in the beginning, or it's a great relationship in the beginning, and you don't do any work to make it blossom. It all requires work. It all requires effort. It requires pivoting. It requires thinking outside the box. So if you're at the point in your business where things are feeling mundane and stale, there are other opportunities around you. There are ways you can pivot. There's ways you can grow your business besides that linear path of just selling more widgets. Look at what you're doing. Look at what inspired you in the first place, and see if you can find that inspiration again by kind of changing up what you're doing, finding a new direction, and servicing that same market, but with new vigor, because now you're offering something new, something different, which is frankly what I had to do with Idea Pros this year as well. We had, our heavy lifting flagship product is really expensive. If an entrepreneur wants to work with us, it's $100,000 or more upfront and giving us a piece of their company. But we do everything from the idea all the way to nationwide launch. We do all the pieces, but we had about 100,000 applications and took 400 people. So I had to really rethink the business this year. And now we're offering all sorts of free and cheap things like video courses on entrepreneurship for a couple $100. So all the way up that ladder. And now I'm reinvigorated because I'm able to do a lot more good for a lot more people because I've changed up what I'm selling. And you guys all can do the same thing, whatever your business is.
Well, there's something to be said about the value now that you're able to offer above and beyond what you were before, because you're able to help so many more people. So that pivot in many cases is sort of this blessing in disguise. And when we are in the midst of our problem, if you want to call it that, or whatever that challenge is, it's not uncommon for people to freak out, really, right? Like all the mental stuff starts kicking up, and, is this over? And should I exit? And whatever the story is, without recognizing, and I love that, quote from Napoleon Hill, that, opportunity is ultimately, within every opportunity or adversity is the seed for opportunity. I think I said that wrong, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
So now this is a real practical scenario, a real practical example of that, where you recognize, hey, something's feeling just a little bit off, and maybe not entirely, right? It doesn't mean that your whole business is necessarily collapsing, but if something's a little stagnant, if something's a little off, if you're not feeling so good about something, if it feels like you're pointed in the wrong direction, there's oftentimes an opportunity there for something really incredible to come out of that, if you're willing to explore what that might be.
And that's the thing. Look, you can start a company and you can be really successful right out the bat. You're just marching down the finish line, and all of a sudden, like that football player that you see dancing at the 5-yard line, and then somebody swipes the ball at the very end, you're going to have competition coming up behind you. You're going to have pressure. You're going to have pricing pressure. You're going to have competitive pressures. You have to constantly be looking all over the place. And by force, you need to pivot. There's no business that's going to survive on its own. IBM and their typewriters. Well, Royal had a big typewriter market share. They're gone in history. I don't know if anybody knows what typewriters are, but that was the thing. And when you don't look, and when you don't change, when you don't expand, then you lose it. So you can stay, if you can take your fear and turn that into your adrenaline, then you're going to really be great. And if you can focus on only the things you can fix and not worry about the macro environment that you can't do anything about, then you're going to be great. You just have to understand that entrepreneurship is about adversity. Entrepreneurship is for crazy people and losers. Why? Well, you're crazy because everybody in the world tells you you're nuts for leaving the cushy job you have. And you're a loser because it takes 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 times to get it right. And you have to be comfortable with temporarily losing on your path to success. If you're not going to make it as an entrepreneur. You might as well close down the shop. But if you are, embrace the fire, because that's what's going to give you the fuel that you need to make the pivots you need to be successful.
I love that. You're right. Oftentimes business owners tend to feel like outcasts. They feel misunderstood. They're the weird one, the odd one in the family. And I learned many, many years ago when I started working more specifically with business owners in my mindset coaching practice, as opposed to just the general public, that there is a real emotional void for a lot of my clients, because they were different. They were doing these, things. Their own spouse, in many cases, didn't understand the thought process. And the thing that is sort of our weakness is also our greatest strength, but it also needs to be nurtured. And I love this conversation. I love speaking with individuals like yourself. You are able to put it into perspective. There is this huge misconception that people who have achieved success just somehow had it right from the get-go. They had it all figured out. They were wired differently. Things just fell into place in their favor. And then we have the the sort of facade that a lot of people are wearing online, where everything looks like it's just humming along great. And I've been in a lot of like these different masterminds and networking groups and associating with a lot of peers and colleagues. And, you know, their external appearance is so different than what's really going on under the hood. You know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Look, I've woken up in the middle of the night. In fact, I got up at 3:00 this morning after going to bed at 11:30 because I had a business idea, and I know that when I have those things, I got to get up out of bed and start working on it. Otherwise, I'm going to forget about it. But the reality is, it's a never-ending journey. There's a beginning, but there's really no end. It keeps changing. It keeps amorphizing. Did I say that word right? I hope so. If not, you can edit. But
you're not getting away with that. Everything is raw and real here.
Yeah, I know. I was afraid of that. But the reality is that this is really hard, and you need to, as I said, you need to embrace that uncertainty, because it's the weird people that make the changes in the world. You know, it's the crazies. I think there's an old Apple commercial about that. You know, it's the unusual ones that make the changes. If you feel like you're an outcast, good for you, because those are the people that change the world. In fact, I got a trademark on the damn thing. I don't know how I did it, but I have a trademark on my slogan is "Fuck average, be legendary." And that's the way you need to think. I mean, when you go to bed at the end of the night, we all want to be extraordinary, but we don't do the extraordinary things necessary to become extraordinary. So when you go to bed at night, think about what is one extraordinary thing I did today to help me, to help my business, to help my family, to help my relationships. What's one thing that I did outside the box? And if you're not coming up with them, you're never going to be extraordinary. So start thinking in a different way.
Well, there's a powerful exercise for everyone. It's amazing how we have this idea that we can achieve greatness by just sort of playing it safe and being kind of average and fitting in and not rocking the boat. And if that were the case, we would see a lot more greatness, wouldn't we?
Yeah, everybody would be great. You'd be great, just like me. It takes this superhuman daily strength. Again, back to my sleep habits, I've woken up and been terrified, you know, of the overwhelming. We have 400 companies under Idea Pros right now because we took in 400 entrepreneurs. They're all building out their businesses. All of your listeners know how crazy it is in a startup environment, how many fires there are to put out. I have 401 fires, including my company, every single day. So some days I wake up and I should be on a boat somewhere, you know, and then you get into the grind and you start realizing that this is what you're meant to do. This is you're giving back in my particular case and making differences in people's lives. It's really, really important work. And I get up and I make it happen. Even when people have told me in the past, what are you doing? You should quit. You're working too hard. This isn't, you don't need to be doing this. And I do need to be doing it. And that's why you see there's so many billionaires that are still working, and there's all sorts of different reasons. But one of the main reasons is why somebody's still working when they don't have to work. They're working because of passion. They're working because of fire. They're working because they need to create something. And you need to find that no matter what your business is, if you're selling hot dogs or you're trying to change the world, you need to find a different way to do things that's going to inspire you and get you the audience that you need to be the top of your game.
I love that. Some of my best friends are very successful entrepreneurs, and sometimes we'll joke, you know, about retirement. You know, none of us are necessarily getting any younger, right? So then you're kind of looking at the future and will there be an exit? And the reality is, I think for most, and it's, of course, we're generalizing here because everybody's journey is different. And some people, they're going to want to retire and spend most of the day out on the boat, right? Or on the golf course or whatever it might be. But from my experience, real entrepreneurs, those who just sort of have it in their DNA, they can't quit. They can't stop. There's always got to be something, like you said, it's that inherent desire to create. And we're all creators, even people who are not business owners, not entrepreneurs. It's just the way we're wired. And if we're not, life is just not nearly as fulfilling.
Yeah, I totally agree. My kids have been on my ass about when am I going to retire. I finally promised them that I'm going to retire by the time I hit 90. But I'm lying to them. Don't say anything to anybody. The reality is that if you're retiring, then you're not doing something you love doing in the first place. You know, if you find something that you love doing, whatever it is, you can even change businesses and do what you love. It doesn't have to be the same business, but stick with what you love, and you're going to be young forever until the day you drop dead with a smile on your face. You know, you can't. I retired 20 years ago for 6 months, and 6 months into it, I recall like it was yesterday. It was 4:10 in the afternoon. I was wearing my bathrobe. I was unshaven. I hadn't even brushed my damn teeth yet. My coffee cup was half empty, sitting there on the coffee table, all cold, and I was watching Oprah. And I said, what the hell am I doing with my life? And the next day I started a new business, and I'm not going to let that happen again. So, you know, wherever you are in your business, however big or small it is, there's always an opportunity to make things better and to make you feel better and more empowered. So keep at it.
I love it. Okay, Fred, we've got to share with our listeners how they can connect with you. You've got so much good stuff to offer. So I'm fully endorsing and highly recommending that everybody follow you, find you, check you out, see what you got going on.
Well, thank you. Thanks. So anyway, so my business site is Idea Pros with an S, ideapros.com. And if you're a business owner, we have all sorts of different programs we can help you with, but we also have a blog section for any entrepreneur. It's the thing I'm actually probably the second most proud of behind my kids. And that is because not because of me, that I have a Facebook show on Fridays, and they take all my videos that I've created in every single aspect of entrepreneurship, and they've created this beautiful blog that really is broken down by sections as a table of contents and authorities, and it's anything you want to know about, you can go get that for free. That's one thing. The other thing is on Instagram, it's official Fred Cary, Cary on Instagram. I talk about positive mindset, self-development, entrepreneurship, purpose-driven entrepreneurship, most importantly. And I post a couple times a day. I have about 500,000 followers on there. One more now. You said you joined.
That's
I'm going
right.
to follow you. I'm going to follow you back. But they're little minutes that if you look at it every day, it's going to inspire you to do better. I have video courses. I have a link tree on there. There's video courses on purpose-driven entrepreneurship for like $150. No matter where you are in your business career, I think it's going to change your mindset. And I encourage you to take a peek. But I'll be here. I'll be waiting for you.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Fred, for being with us today. I wish I could have had you for longer.
Maybe you can.
Maybe I can. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share you with my listeners. If you are new to them, then this is a wonderful opportunity for them to be exposed to the incredible things that you're doing. You are an inspiration for sure. And of course, I have to thank all of our listeners. We are doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.